Ni howdy Raider, how you boys doing today? Cody here. It is time to go over the new skill tree. Now, I've seen a ton of videos, I've done a ton of testing myself, I've seen a ton of other streamers like builds, whatever they're doing, and I don't agree with the builds that everyone's making. I'm gonna be completely honest. And so in this video, I want to go over the build that I think is going to be the best by far for somebody who does PvP, for someone who does PvE, and someone who loots a lot as well, somebody who plays all aspects of the game. I'm going to be going over the order in which you should pick them because I think the timing of certain nodes is very, very crucial with the reset. But for those who don't care, maybe didn't reset or you just want to see what the build is, there will be a link in the description box down below. But I want to start off with where I think a lot of builds that I've seen are kind of making mistakes. So the first thing here, where I think a lot of people are kind of making mistakes, is going too deep into mobility. I've been seeing a lot of the PvPer builds and all this shit, but the thing is, a lot of these nodes don't really do anything. Wall leap is not something you really see people doing. Lets you sprint at the end of a vault. Again, not something you really see people using a lot of. Vaulting costs no stamina. Again, something you don't really want to do. There's a ton of talents at the top of this tree that are not very good. Now, we are going to be going pretty deep into the mobility tree in my build, but I feel like people are just taking a bunch of mobility skills because it's I guess in every single game ever, I mean, mobility tends to be the skill tree that people take for PvP, but in this game, it doesn't really work that way because the trees don't really have a proper distinction, I guess, from what they do. Survival and conditioning both have a really good amount of PvP talents. The second thing I want to talk about is loaded arms. Now, in my previous video, I said it was worth taking, but I'm going to be honest, unless you are a specific kind of player, so you are somebody where you run a Torrente constantly, or you're using legendary weapons constantly, or using a Juniper, whatever the hell it is, or whatever the hell you want to use, you're really not going to use this because this is a talent that kind of gets mitigated by broad shoulders, especially that eventually you are going to be running a Survivor MK3 unless God really fucking hates you. I've noticed that from using it, it's super negligible because once you get your broad shoulders and then you start using your Survivor MK3 augment, realistically you're able to carry a certain amount of weight over your weight limit anyways. You are able to hold 90 kilos or over 90 kilos and stuff. So you are able to carry a lot of weight. Now, I do want to reference that this build is not going to be going loaded arms, but if you're somebody who pretty much spams the Torrente, I do think for the Torrente it is worth just because it's such a heavy weapon. But I'm going to keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? That's not what people are using. You know what I mean? So let's jump into where I think you should begin. So this is a no-brainer. These two nodes are absolute must-haves. Marathon Runner, Youthful Lungs, you need these. If you have your free skill points, you should be able to get one of these up all the way. I did Marathon Runner first. You can just go put it all into Youthful Lungs. It's not really the end of the world. You're going to level up so fast anyways. These two nodes are going to get filled up super fast. But this is where we start off the mobility tree, and then we move directly into survival. The way I went about survival was that I took one in agile crouching, then I went directly into this, and I made sure to get this right away. Now, the difference from Looter's Instinct 0 to 5 is not the biggest, but it's about compounding effects. So I've noticed the way the Arc Raiders skill tree works is that you want a bunch of things that kind of synergize together, and so you're saving a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there, and they all compound to be something quite powerful, right? And so on its own, Looter's Instinct is not the greatest, however, it is very useful. Now, something I didn't really put a ton into is Silent Scavenger. Now, I do want to go up into this node, so I put 1 point into it, but what I actually did is once I put in the 5 points in Looter's Instinct, I actually went into here, and then I took in-round crafting immediately. Being able to craft bandages and shield rechargers in raid is just absolutely a necessity, especially with the meta around Stella Montis, where essentially it's just free load at Central. Being able to just take kill pops or whatever they are, or little fireball boys, and taking their little cores and then turning those into shield rechargers is a must-have. Being able to dismantle things into fabric and making more bandages when you're PvPing a lot is a must-have. This is one of the most important talents to get in the game. Afterwards, I went directly into Silent Scavenger. Just 1 point because I want to get this node, and then I put the rest into Agile Croucher, and then I put the last 2 points here because you just kind of need it. The stamina generation from Revitalizing Squat is not very good, and Silent Scavenger is a okay enough talent in my opinion. It's not the greatest. The thing is that you don't make a ton of noise looting. Generally, you know, if you're just in a quiet building, people are going to hear you like ruffling around a little bit, or if you reach anything, people are going to hear you regardless. So I find a lot of these sound-based talents are not the greatest. But once you get into that, you're going to go suffer in silence. Again, not a very good talent in my opinion. Although I will say I have actually found people who were hiding in bushes who were making a lot of noise. So maybe this is a lot bigger than I realized, because sometimes you have trouble finding people when they're wounded, and other times people are just making a ton of noise. So this might actually end up being a pretty good talent. But the most important thing here is broad shoulders. This thing is broken. You need this because it's going to help you in your free runs. You need this because it's going to help you in your geared runs. This is, I think, I would honestly argue that one of the most important talents in the entire talent tree. Now, this is where I actually swap into conditioning. So I actually am a really big fan of Proficient Prior. I really miss having this. I think Proficient Prior is, again, one of the best talents in the talent tree. I'm not going to say that for everything. It's useful, okay? Computers. You need a lot of them. When you start building your bigger augments, or you start building your bigger shields, you're going to be using CPUs like crazy. On top of that, how do you get your augments? The fucking breach door in Bluegate. It is a race to that goddamn door. The faster you can breach it open, the faster you can start opening containers before the next guy comes. And it's just lemmings of people just jumping off the mountain coming at you. You want to get this talent. It's like very, 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 very important. Breaching quickly is important. Also, you're very vulnerable when breaching, especially with things like the Cold Snap event happening right now, where you have a ton of arc probes out that are just a ton of money and give you a ton of materials. You actually just need to upgrade your benches, or even just give yourself actual extra juice or whatever it is. It's just a very important talent to get early, in my opinion, and it is worth pausing the survival tree to reach up and get it. But again, I don't think it's worth more than Broad Shoulders, and so I wait to get it until after Broad Shoulders, because the carry weight difference of this talent is just nuts. The next thing I personally would go for is Looter's Luck, just because the loot revealing 2 at a time, again, compounds with this, and so that little bit that you're saving is revealing 2 items at a time, or whatever it is. Again, super important, because when you're looting a body, looting a container, whatever it is, you want to stay out of the crouch looting position as much as humanly possible. It's very important to get. And then this is where the tree gets a little less like detrimental. So I would go good as new. Again, the stamina generation is not crazy from this, but it's just so you have access to Tinker, and then eventually you want to get up here, right? So you're going to put points into here, grab your points there, and then you're kind of just putting points over. Just put 2 points in here to grab your Security Breach. Now, I know Security Breach is something that a lot of streamers are saying they are not going to get. However, I think for a regular player, that is insanely, insanely bad advice. I don't think it's worth rushing it, because the spawns of them are now no longer static. And so you might not see as many, and because there's not like a route you can take where you're always going to hit your Security Breach over and over and over again, right? But a lot of streamers don't really play the game the way me and you would. Well, I guess I'm a streamer, but the way a regular player would. Because the thing is, you guys are not ex-FPS pros who are now playing a casual extraction shooter. You guys are regular players. And so streamers taking Security Breach doesn't make sense, because they don't loot, they only PvP, and all of their gear comes from killing other players. I mean, streamers, it's very common that they'll even just dismantle like Venerators and Renegades and whatever in order to just get parts to repair the gun they're currently using. A regular player probably is not going to be doing that. Yes, Security Breach is not as good as it used to be when it was just like shitting out purple guns or whatever, but it gives you an insane amount of gun parts, right? Medium gun parts, light gun parts, heavy gun parts, which are super, super, super important if you want to run like powerful meta builds. On top of that, you have to remember the Security Breach locker is the highest value thing you can loot in the game. Or let's say you're doing Stella Montes and you're in a free loadout, or you're in a free loadout on any map. Being able to hit that Security Breach is a huge gap for you, because maybe you get a gun you can actually use that's better than the gun. Maybe you spawned in with like a Pharaoh or something, right? Or maybe you just get some gas, maybe you just get some loot, some ammo, whatever it is. In my opinion, this is one of the most high value containers you can loot in the game. And so for a regular player, even though a lot of other content creators are saying not to take it, I do think that it is horrible advice for a regular player to not take this talent, because regular players interact with every single aspect of the game, not just PvP. I do want to take a bunch of talents to help in PvP as well, because again, I like to PvP a lot, right? So I'm going to put some points into Slip and Slide and into Sturdy Ankles. The reason for this is I want both of these talents. Now, I'm going to probably put, depending on how many skill points you have, eventually you will put 5, but at the beginning you're just going to put 3. The reason for this is Slip and Slide is not a very good talent, to be honest. It is a difference, and you do move faster, but very, very nominally, right? So eventually we'll fill it out if you have your 80 skill points. Otherwise, you're going to leave it at 3. But the reason you want this is because Carry the Momentum is actually a very, very good talent, right? It's very, very powerful. And Calming Stroll actually recently was buffed. So the way this worked before is that it was only when you were in your walking stance. When you click V and you were actually walking, that's the only time it regenerated. However, in the most recent patch, they added it that when you are ADSing, you also get this Calming Stroll effect activated, which in my opinion is actually like really, really good. The last thing you're going to get in the mobility tree is going to be Effortless Roll. Again, this is something that originally did fuck all. However, now this is a very, very, very good talent. It is probably one of the best talents in the game. It's one of the best talents in the tree, but it's actually a very good stamina talent. This is all you're going to go for mobility. Yes, there are a bunch of other things, and there are some things that might be good for you, like when you're down, do you crawl faster? I think that is, if you play a lot of party, a lot of group, I think this could be useful. It definitely has its spots, and I definitely think putting some points into it could be useful for you. Everything else I would not really touch. I'm going to be honest. Most of this other stuff is like, you're not really vaulting in PvP very much. You're not really, jumping at the end of your vault. I don't know a ton of people that are doing like, vault jumps or like whatever, the wall jumps, whatever it is. It's not things that I ever see even really good players do. So I would not touch anything else in this tree. Again, if you want to go crawl before you walk, I don't think it's completely useless, but I think there are better things to get in the conditioning tree specifically for PvP. So in conditioning, you are just going to be taking a bunch of compounding talents. So Blastborn, not really going to touch it. You're only taking it for flight or fight. Again, when you're hurt in combat, you're getting a fixed amount of stamina. This is just kind of nice. If you're getting blasted in the middle of a field, you're getting a bit of stamina back. It's just kind of helpful. And then you just start putting points into Use to the Weight until you can unlock this talent right here, Unburdened Roll. When your shield breaks, you get your next dodge roll does not cost stamina. Why is it important? I mean, unless you get shot in the head by a pharaoh, you're pretty much two-shot. Or unless you get hit by an anvil, you're close to death. Essentially, when you're close to death, you can dodge roll away, because a lot of the times your first reaction when you are like an inch away from death is going to be sprint, dodge roll away, then into a slide, into another dodge roll. Like, you're going to just start spamming a ton of high mobility movements or high mobility abilities because you want to get the hell away from whoever is shooting at you so you can start healing and stuff, right? So I think this is a super important talent, again, for PvP specifically. Now, if you have no extra points, right? We've used 75 points so far. Your 76th point, I personally would just slap it into Stamina Survivor. When you're critically hurt, your stamina regenerates faster. Again, same idea. These all synergize together. When you are getting just dumpstered by some dude, your stamina starts to like bounce, or you get free mobility, whatever it is. They're all synergizing together. It synergizes with this a little bit as well, right? Dodge rolling costs less stamina. It's all about the synergies between the trees. It's all about the synergies between the nodes. And so you just kind of compound a bunch of realistically very small improvements to your stamina or to your mobility to compound into a big effect that's going to help you and save you, right? So if you do not have extra skill points, this is what your tree will look like. However, if you do have those 5 extra skill points, this is where you should be adding them. So, like I said, if you do a lot of group PvP, okay, things like Down to be Determined, but I would really go for Crawl Before You Walk would be a talent that I would consider. I'm not going to take that because I think that, like, realistically, if you can get away from somebody thirsting you, you can get away from someone thirsting you. There are niche situations where it'll come in handy, or maybe like, let's say you're crawling to the evac, whatever. There are going to be those niche situations where these things will come in handy, but I don't think it's worth it. For me, I'm going to just fill out the rest of Use to the Weight, and I'm going to fill out the rest of Slip and Slide. Now, I don't think Slip and Slide is a very good talent, but again, you move a bit faster, and I think a lot of times what I notice with sliding and a lot of the movement in the game is that your character doesn't move that fast. But I guess it's because of the tick rate of the server. There's a lot of like weird, like, you should have been shot, but on their screen they might have hit you, but they're not sure. And then the game has a ton of bloom on the guns. And so it kind of makes you like kind of like a little more slippery, right? But again, it's not like a great talent. However, Use to the Weight, very good talent. Why? It reduces the amount of movement speed penalty you receive when using your shield. So if you're using a heavy shield, which is super, super powerful, or a medium shield, which you're going to be running on pretty much every single raid forever at some point, right? You are not getting punished for using the medium shield, and you are taking way less movement speed weight reduction from the heavy shield. I think this is a super good talent, and again, in my opinion, this is by far the best all-around PvE, PvP build. Like I said, if you do want to take a loaded guns, you can just take some points out of... I would probably take points out of Slip and Slide, right? Take some points out of here and slap them into here if you'd like, you know? But I don't think this is worth it. for most players. I think a lot of the talents that people are taking are just kind of like, I don't know if the word's gimmicky, but like there's a lot of the like, oh, I'm a PvPer, I need to take all my talents and mobility, even though half the mobility things is things you don't even interact with as a player anyways. And I do think that if they ever do change around some of the talents and make them worth it, I could see maybe Security Breach being worth like not taking if you are more focused on PvP. But as it stands, I think this is objectively by far the best talent tree that you can put together. Again, there's some customization with the nodes or whatever, but to me, this is by far the best talent tree you can put together as a Arc Raiders player. Cuties! That's the end of the video. I hope you guys found it helpful. As always, if you're enjoying the content, sub the channel, like the videos. It helps me out a ton. And be sure to check me out on Twitch. It is linked in the description box down below. If you are hearing this bald man speak, right meow. I am already live, killing some dudes, hopefully, and not dying. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll catch you next one.